My special guest today is Rob R. Hailing from South Asia, he has gone viral many times for his DJ sets in idyllic locations. He's on a mission to bring South Asian music to the world, and he is our guest today on the Off the Record podcast. Welcome back to this week's Off the Record DJ podcast. I have special guest DJ Rob R in the building. Woo! Let's go. Right, let me for context, let me read this message which you dropped as you said. Hi Lawrence, I've been following Crossfader for a while now. In fact, I learned my basics of DJing watching your Crossfader YouTube videos. I'm a British Sri Lankan DJ, and now on my production journey, I've been watching some of your stories on Off the Record. It's super inspiring. Started DJing 2 years ago, and I've grown my Instagram following to over 30,000 followers, and after some of my videos in unique places went viral, I've just done an India tour, and now I'm heading to Europe to play. I want to say a massive thank you for putting this together. I'm back in the UK. I would love to connect. Let's connect.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Wonderful.
Thanks for coming from. You're back in the UK for a little bit, but you're not actually based in the UK, but you grew up here, right?
Yeah. So I was born in Jaffna. In Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And Sri Lanka, we had a civil war in the 90s and the 2000s. Mm-hmm. So my family migrated to Wembley. So I grew up there. So I spent pretty much all my childhood here in Wembley, Northwest London.
Yeah.
And actually, just before the pandemic in 2019, 2020, I moved to Singapore.
Right.
I ran a business there. And about 7 months ago, I moved to Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is my base. Yeah. I come here to visit my family. And then I travel all around. So I spend a lot of time in India, all around Asia. Yep. Now I'm doing a Europe tour, so I'll be here in Europe as well.
Amazing. And to say you sort of started DJing like fairly recently, where did the actual sort of passion for music or DJing, where did that even begin?
I'm just going to take my hat off.
Go for it.
Actually, I've been listening to a lot of music from like a young age.
Yeah.
Like in Sri Lanka and India, it's so embedded in our culture. Sure. You almost listen to music and dance and arts like 24/7. So a lot of it started when I was younger. So at home, like in Wembley, so we used to listen to a lot of Tamil, South Asian music. So a lot of Tamil, Hindi, and other South Asian music, and it's close to the movies as well. We watch a lot of movies at home. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my early inspiration came from that. And then when I'm outside of the home, it's almost a complete different culture because I'm now growing up in Wembley and I'm going to school with very multicultural, diverse group of people.
Yep.
So then I grew up listening to a lot of rap, hip hop, R&B, grime, this kind of stuff, reggae, dancehall, like all of this thing. And there's always been a struggle to kind of choose or trying to balance, like trying to figure out where I fit in.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, even now I never quite understand, and I've just stopped trying to find a way to fit in. And I just almost just observe and like embrace both sides to me. This is the third culture child syndrome. Yeah.
Get that.
I'm both. I'm British, but I'm also Sri Lankan Tamil. So that's where a lot of the inspiration came in. And early stages, when I first moved here, I was listening to music on like tape, like on cassettes. Yeah. So buying those, then to CDs, and then these like USB sticks started coming out, and I started to download music, stick them and save them onto the USB sticks. And I remember in the early stages, my first one I ever had was like 128 MB. It was like tiny. I can put like 30 songs on there.
Yeah, hardly.
And
any.
You have it across your neck.
Yeah, I remember that.
Plug in.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff I used to listen to was doing that. And then when I was really young, like when I was maybe 12 in high school, I was one of the first people to get internet or broadband at home. So I figured out how to download music. So I used to download albums and like burn them and then sell them to kids in school.
I was the kid who used to buy them albums at school. Yeah. It took like 3 weeks to download a song.
So actually a lot of tracks and music was from that. Like I used to download and listen to them. I used to have a huge library. And that then moved on to iPods, and then into phones and so on. So it's always been a journey of collecting music And I used to just find loads of random stuff from random sources and random countries, and I used to just get a kick off that.
Oh, nice.
And just share with friends. That's from early stages.
Yeah, well, I noticed from sort of a few your Instagram posts, it's like one of your sort of missions is to share like South Asian music like with the world. So like, there's obviously a big gap. You mentioned you had a sort of a business in Singapore, but there's obviously a gap between being in love with music, finding love with music, having a career, living out in various places. But then, when does it decide to be like, okay, actually, what I really want to do is, start sharing my music with the world? And then how did that sort of stumble into wanting to DJ in these amazing places, which I'm going to put up online if you're watching these videos, which are amazing?
So I think this goes back to, again, my search for this, trying to fit in. Coming from a Sri Lankan household, we have very traditional ways of thinking about career and jobs. So like DJing or music or anything to do with arts, not massively encouraged, especially when I grew up, because you've got to remember my parents just fled a war and moved here, and they're on survival mode. So they just want their kids to have the most stable and easy job as possible. Sure. So this was never something that I would even imagine. I didn't really have much role models to think about, this DJ or this producer or this singer. Like the representation was very low when I was growing up. But that's changed quite a lot now.
Good.
I've always thought, okay, my first job was I went to university, and I actually spent 2 years in the Army Reserve, so training to be an officer.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the path I was going to take. And then once I finished uni, then I worked in investment banking for the first 3 years, and I thought that's what I really wanted to do. Yeah, so trying to fit into that. And then after that, I got into the startup space and started my own business. And I've always been quite entrepreneurial, starting and building things. And I really enjoyed that. But music has always followed me through all of these journeys. It's like I've constantly been listening and sharing music. Yep. It's only like 2 years ago when I was in Singapore, and I was, I used to go out a lot. I had loads of friends who were DJs and creating music. And I used to just watch them do things. And I was like, this is not so hard, because it's not to say that I'm like super clever or anything. In the most humblest way, it's like, hey, this is not too difficult to learn. Yeah. And like all my life, I've always had this belief that anyone can learn anything. It's this growth mindset. And I've always been a true believer in that. So it's like, this is not too hard. I want to have a go. So then I bought a deck. I bought a second-hand deck we have a Gumtree version in Singapore.
Oh, right, okay.
So I bought a second-hand one.
Yeah. Let's try it
started
out.
watching some of the videos and stuff, and little clips from Crossfader. And then I actually went to a DJ school in Singapore. I said, okay, maybe I need some help to get the basics right. So I took like 6 lessons.
Nice.
Just to understand the music theory, how everything works, and a bit more like understanding of controllers. So I've got some basics, then I'm more and more like learning and practicing at home. And then, to be honest, after 2 or 3 months, I was like, to be honest, the real test is when you're playing in front of people.
Oh, for sure.
So I was like, hey, like I had friends who were throwing parties, or friends who, doing board parties, birthdays, and all of this. It's like, hey, let me just bring my equipment along and start playing around with it. And that's how we started. So I just started playing to the crowd, understand how it works. But the biggest thing is watching videos and practicing at home, because I used to just love, because I got addicted to the thing, because there's so much you can do. It's like crazy. And I think, because I've never been like a gamer or someone who's into like a lot of this kind of tech stuff growing up, and I always would be a kid that was outside playing. So for once, like after a long gap, I found a toy that I really like.
I can do this.
So I was gonna go in all in on it. And then I think it's a lot of like going to parties. Then I went to Coachella. I went to a few other smaller festivals as well. There's one in Thailand called Wonder Fruit.
Right.
Just to understand and see various different kind of music. And to try and see what I want to play to people, what I want to share. And I just started collecting music. And then I stumbled upon Afro House, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Having grown up in Wembley, there is a massive Afro-Caribbean influence.
Huge.
And I've grown up with a lot of dancehall, reggae, music, and I've always been so linked to or had a calling for African music.
Yep.
And this was a perfect match because I also like house music. So it was a great kind of combination. And once I found a couple of tracks and it was just constant, I kept finding loads and loads of stuff I like.
Yeah.
And there's just so diverse. It's not really so, put into one box because Afro house doesn't mean it's just
African
it's
and
like
then
Latin,
house. Yeah, it's everything
this,
infused.
Brazilian, like even some of the Indian house music that I find now, it still falls under the Afro house genre. So that was
Amazing.
my journey.
No, I love it. I love it. So if I'm going to put up like a lot of your videos as we sort of talking through this, but you must have then gone, okay, so I've DJed for my friends, I've got a little bit of experience, I'm going to these places, amazing places like Coachella, sort of getting the vibe for like, this is who I want to be. And it finally seems like you sort of found the place that you're sort of trying to get to. When you look around then where you were in like Sri Lanka at the time, like, was it basically like, did you just look around and think, well, this is, I don't need a club. This is my stage. Like the surrounding, the people are so amazing. It's so picturesque. It's so beautiful. I want to represent myself and sort of my culture in a different way. Is that why you sort of chose to start filming where you've filmed?
Yeah, so story to that. So 7 months ago, I moved to Sri Lanka because I wanted to take a break from big cities and the constant chase of money and, like big city life.
The rat race.
The rat race. I want to take a break. So I moved to Sri Lanka to take a break. And I just started reaching out to venues there. Like, it's a very simple structure. Look at all the venues or go on ChatGPT. What are the top places to play your music in this part of the world? Gives you a list. Check their Instagram. Then I organize all my stuff on Notion. So if there's any beginner DJs, looking for tips, organize all your stuff. For every city, I have a file with all the names and all of this kind of stuff.
This is a businessman's approach. A businessman's approach to getting gigs, and I love it.
It's outbound sales. That's all it is.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
So I started reaching out to them and got a couple of gigs going. And once you get a few, then it's much, much easier. And from November till about April this year, I was pretty much quite busy in the south coast of Sri Lanka playing gigs. And then it came to a point where it was like, okay, this is great. I can play in my town in Sri Lanka and it's nice. But how do I take this to the next level? How do I do bigger things? So how do you get reaches? You can either there's a couple of ways you can do. You can do organic growth. And then I look at Colombo, the capital city, playing gigs there and grow in Sri Lanka and then eventually to different parts of Asia.
Right.
Or you try and do something different, a lot of the content that I was putting out on social media, and I wanted to focus more on social media, is I was putting a lot of content with me and people dancing and all these hype videos, and they were not getting anything more than 1,000 views. 1,000 view on a video was so big for me at that point. I had 500 followers or something. So you had to do something different. And I was thinking, okay, well, I'm in Sri Lanka in Asia. What do people like? What do they like? What is the cultural understanding here? What do they think of a DJ? What do they think they do? And a lot of things that I was trying to plan was to try and do more viral things. It's okay, what if I DJ'd in the middle of a street with all this craziness and madness going on? So the first video I shot was at one of the fruit shops in Ahangama in Sri Lanka.
Amazing.
And it's hey, I was uncle, can I just set up my deck? You sell your fruits, I'll just play some music. And my friend was shooting a video for me.
Yeah.
So that was that. So I shot that video and then moved to the main road and there was buses and things going past, shot another video there, posted this video and it started getting some crazy reach. And I thought I'll maybe get 5,000 views and we'll have to do loads and loads and loads. It will take
forever.
6 or forever. But I knew we'll get there, but it was going to take some time. So, but this one started getting, 5,000, 10,000. And I think now it's on 300,000 views on that video. But it's also thinking about also the person that's in the shop, he's quite a character. He has a wig and everyone knows him.
Right.
He's also using things around you.
So super authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this video got pretty viral and people started knowing me in my area. So then I was okay, let's do more of this. What's another bizarre or something viral kind of
sort of cultural
space.
stand
Cultural,
out.
stand out.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that's different. Was like the fish market. Like we have tons of fish in Sri Lanka, and
Yep.
we have fish markets all along the coast. So I went to a gold fish market.
Nice.
And we shot a video there with the song Taka by
Skrillex?
Skrillex.
Yeah.
I had a dream, and Priya Raghu. Priya Raghu is also originally Sri Lankan.
Right.
So I try and put these things together and shot a video, and that video is now on like 2 million views or something. So
Crazy.
that started creating a lot of stuff. And it also turns out there's loads of pages sharing my videos that I didn't even know about, because I'm not even on Facebook or anything.
Yeah.
So it started getting a lot of shares. So we started then creating more. So my manager, who also lives in Sri Lanka with me now in Czech Republic, so she shoots a lot of my videos and
Nice.
edits them and thinks about, okay, how do we make this viral? Like, what's thing? And because she's from Czech Republic, she has a very different view on things.
Yeah.
And what she thinks it's like interesting or different from a European point of view.
Yeah.
So we look at that.
I like that.
So this kind of blends worked really well. So then we shot this, and then the third video that got me really big was outside my house. It was in the rice fields,
Right.
on an old motorbike, and I set the deck
Oh yeah,
out.
it looked amazing.
And it was a track bike kind of music, like Tandasa, and it's one I really love. So I just played that, shot a video, 15 seconds, edited it, and that actually works really well, because at the same time there's like birds and things flying and all
Right.
the noise, just
Timing.
added to it.
Timing, yeah.
So that video now has about 3 million views, and it's just growing all the day. I think that's what reached India a lot more,
Yep.
because that part of the world is very similar to South India. So I started getting a lot of followers from India.
Right.
So I think at that point maybe I had like 3,000 or 4,000 followers. Now he's on 33,000 followers. That gave me a crazy reach, and I started getting like the number of followers I have in India overtook what I had in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So I have people from like all the southern states, so Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and all of these. Goa is a big one. So they started reaching out, all the bookers, the promoters, like, hey, do you want to come to India?
Come to India and play, yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm quite happy here. So they were like, okay, come. And so one of them actually booked me for a festival to play in Pondicherry. So I was like, okay, well, is this real? Is it true? Can I trust them? So then I was watching more, like, again, a lot of my information
Have a
comes on
look.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, yeah.
How do you get booked?
Yeah.
What is a contract? How
Yeah.
do you do invoicing?
Yeah.
So I made up a contract. Like, it's very easy to do.
Yep.
And then an invoice, send them the details. And I said, hey, to my manager, if they pay like a deposit, book our flights, we'll go. So they did. And I was like, okay, it's real. Let's go.
There we go.
Let's go.
Amazing. Yeah.
So now I had the dates for one city in India. Then I started looking at the other ones around. So then I just turned it into a 3 weeks tour of India. So
Cool.
connected with a bunch of other promoters.
Yep.
It was incredible. Like,
Amazing. I think that it's such a great sort of story, because from your sort of analytical approach, you can tell obviously you've been a businessman, but looking at, okay, what is the content that I need to go viral, right? And you're sort of breaking it down and making it almost a process. But then it's like, I think a lot of people like DJs and beginner DJs will look at it and say, well, okay, that's cool, like going viral or whatever, but what comes from that? Because there's no point, going viral and then there's nothing can come from it. But it's great to see that, going viral or making content that is authentic, because you don't want to go viral for the wrong reason.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want it to be true and authentic and credible to you, like what you've done. But it's great to know that there's something that comes along with that. And you say you've met your manager through your content, and you're coming over to Europe. And I think that's a great sort of message to put out there, that if you are sort of consistent with it, you are authentic, and you are representing yourself, then that virality can really have a lot of benefits. Yeah.
100%. I think for me, like I said, what's so important, even now I'll come to my music and how I organize that in a minute.
Yeah,
But
nice.
For me, it's like everything is structured and systems, because otherwise I struggle. Like when I wake up, the first thing I do with my coffee is have a list of things to do.
Right.
If I don't, I'm so lost.
Right.
And it's the same with the way I approach music. It's like, okay, well, this is a business. This is my product. I'm selling myself. And all of the videos, the social media is one aspect of my marketing
Sure.
strategy. And it works. And, there is a lot of talk about like why do you have to do social media, like why is it, it's how you're selling yourself.
Marketing.
It's marketing, and it's
Any
just
business-
how
any business has it, yeah.
need it. Like
Yeah.
you need to do it. And to be honest, we're so lucky that we have social media, because imagine you're a DJ 20 years ago.
You used to have to go places.
You have to go places, knock on doors,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
stuff. But now you can reach a lot of people just from your phone, and it's not a lot to do.
Well,
And-
you're here from your phone.
Exactly.
You sat here in front.
Exactly,
But
and-
it's because we've had sort of Zoe London, we have Mark from Tool Room, and it's. I don't think a lot of DJs approach it like a business, and it is like, you know, you got sort of young DJs coming into it, new 18, they just want to have a controller and play at a festival, like that's amazing. But then there is a process of being like, okay, you are getting in the DJ business. We were chatting earlier when we met earlier about how the DJ landscape is changing sort of globally. There's a lot of talk of like nightclub closures and just what DJing is. They are rock stars now, DJs around the world, headlining festivals, doing shows, number one on dance charts and all that kind of thing. And what you can achieve by being a DJ is so varied, which is why I really wanted to speak to you today. What are some other opportunities that have come off the back of sort of your success that you can attach to like your sort of brand?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're in Europe doing a few shows.
Yeah, so I think again, I agree with you. Like DJs need to take a completely different entrepreneurial approach to things now, because you will have to do multiple different things. You know, like I think now a lot of this time I spend practicing, editing tracks, doing mashups is probably like 70% of my time. The 30% of the time I'm doing planning out my social media. I'm looking at my dates for the rest of the year and where I want to be and who I should be reaching out to. A lot of outbound stuff.
Yep.
And then, you know, outbound doesn't always work. Like I send like tons of messages and
course.
emails and call people. They're not going to just take you and say, hey, yeah, come.
No.
Like, you know, there's no one gets any special treatment here.
No.
So you also have to be creative. Like when I wanted to come back to London, I really wanted to play. And it was tough. Like the landscape here is tough. You can't just like
Can't just turn
rock up. Like no one cares if you're from Sri Lanka or any part of the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
They want to know, can you sell tickets?
Yeah. Basically, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, like how many UK followers do you have?
Yeah.
Not so much. Most of them are in Asia. So when things like this happen, then now I'm like, okay, well, I'll throw my own event. So what I did was, okay, well, I don't know if it's going to work or not. So I put out an event saying, hey, like, guys, I want to throw an event in London. How many of you are here? How many are going to come? Send me a message. Got a list of people. Then you can go to the venue and say, hey, I have 50 people on my guest list. Let's do this. Then they're more inclined to say yes, because they'll give you anything now because you're bringing 50 people. And again, this goes back to your question about landscape. The whole social scene in the UK has changed. Like me coming back, I'm so shocked as to where people are on Friday nights. Like, people don't go out here anymore. It's just so different. So with bars and venues and even clubs like struggling to get people through the door, this is your unique kind of like opportunity here. Like if you can build a community, if you have a following, if you can convince people to come together, you're sharing your music and taking them to a venue, you're now going to be treated so differently. So not relying so much on venues booking you can also take the step forward to try and organize stuff. So that's been quite good with the social media. Having like a following gives you access to this community of people that you can take along with you. And I've been very fortunate to do that. So I think doing your own events is one thing. And also you can collaborate with other DJs to pull people together and do stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's a great point, because I think, like you say, with UK, Europe especially, where, you know, where are people on a Friday night? I think people go to like specific events. When I was like DJing, you'd be able to have like a room that played house, there's a room that played R&B, and you can sort of put a lot of people in a box, but people have such individual tastes now that they'd rather go to a place that's 100 people playing just Afro house as opposed to going to a 2,000 cap club that's you might hear every song of loads of genres, because they can wait for a couple of weeks to see one DJ playing one set that they absolutely love, because, you know, they'll spend money on it, it'll be a bit more expensive, but they'd rather go to like one specific place, which is why you mentioned about putting on your own events, it might be a lot easier than it was to get them 100 or 200 people to a specific night that follow you, that know what you're going to play, for sure. Yeah, so I think it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and then you just reach out to people like DJs locally, because there are also younger aspiring DJs who might actually be on the same boat as you, who want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And if you have skills, and if you don't like organizing stuff, just find someone that does organizing stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And just transfer skills. So it's doable. So I think doing more events, and again with more and more clubs, like it's different for me, because I've been so 4 or 5 years in Asia.
Yeah.
It's very outdoorsy now.
Sure.
Like for us, for me now, coming back here and being inside a room,
clubs.
it's crazy.
Yeah, talk to me about that South Asian sort of culture. Talk to me about in terms of like nightlife, where people go, what you can do, like that's different to, I say, like European culture.
Yeah, so because it's pretty much hot throughout the year, so there is generally, it's mostly is outdoors, so your kind of bars and stuff is generally outdoors. There are indoor ones, but most people go out outdoors, have their drink, and then some people continue to stay at these bars or smaller venues for the entire night. And maybe it's like going to a club is more like 2 or 3 a.m. situation, just to end the night. So whereas here it's slightly more different. So there's outdoor space is quite big, especially in Singapore. There are big clubs, but pandemics changed this around so much. It's not like what it used to be.
No.
The venue, there's only a few like big clubs now, and like the clientele is different. Most of the people like going to these bars and specific events. There's a lot of collectives now coming up. Even post-pandemic, there's a few collectives that gather together and organize their own events.
Right.
And usually at beach clubs or smaller venues, it's more intimate, and it's friends of friends, this kind of setup. And people like to go to those. I remember when I was in Singapore last year, like we had like a shop house, essentially like a big old heritage Chinese house.
Oh, nice.
And we, in the downstairs, we took all the furnitures out and got some sound systems, lights, and turned it into a party. And that turned out to be a really cool thing to do.
Sick.
So people do a lot more of these in Singapore. Sri Lanka is different because we're on the south coast. And even in Colombo, it's more rooftops, beach clubs. We have beach parties or sometimes jungle parties, like in the middle of jungle. And organize this kind of stuff. To be honest, like I haven't really been to. I think probably once I've been to a club indoors.
Indoors,
but it feels really weird.
No reason to do so.
No reason to do it.
I love that. So because I know you're sort of business analytical, and you probably already thought about the future, is the goal then to obviously keep building the followers with the viral content, but then what are you hoping that achieves? Are you hoping to get on more festivals, get bigger bookings, tour more? Is it all of it, or what is the sort of short, if you've got short, mid, long term?
I think in the short term, like at the moment, my big focus is like, I spend quite a lot of time, again, like 30% of my time on the social media and outbound, but actually 70-80% of the time I'm actually learning a lot of the Ableton work now.
Right, production.
So yeah, because I quite enjoyed for the last 2 years playing tracks and finding and playing tracks made by other people, but now I want to really take things up. So there's a lot of the tracks that I play now, it's been edited or mashed up with other tracks. I actually spent some time at a music school in India learning Ableton because it's something, it's very hard to find a tutor for it, in my part of the world. So I've been doing a lot of that work. So I think short term, I want to keep growing the followers to get it to maybe 100,000. Keep doing these events that I do. So this event called Roots, which is a fusion of Afro House and South Asian music. And that's well received in Colombo, and I'm doing one here in London on the 1st of September. And I want to do more of those. So I'm going to be playing a lot of gigs in venues and festivals, but also doing my own stuff and build an audience. I think long term will be to do, again, big festivals and all of this. I think next year, I want to try and get to a few festivals in Europe and Asia. So that's the way I see it. Keep learning, because I think I have such a long way to go in terms of, where I want to be. I'm probably at 5% of where I see my journey is. So I need to keep learning. Even today, every day I'm learning stuff about DJing
Yeah.
and production.
Yeah.
You know, like one thing that really helps me stay organized, because I think, again, another tip that people can use is on Instagram, it obviously feeds me a lot of DJ content.
Yeah.
So I have like basically like 3 main categories. One is other, but the other 2 is DJ tips and tricks. So anytime I see stuff from Crossfader,
Yep.
I save it and put it in
into
this
a folder.
collection. Yeah, and put it into this collection.
This is a pro tip, by the way, 'cause this is what we do in the office.
Yeah. And then the second one is whenever I see like viral videos of music and people partying, and you know that you like the track. And then another one called music to download. So I save it in there. Once a week, I go to both of these and say, if there's new music I want to download, I go find those. Anything I have free time, I want to practice on the controller, I go to the tips, the DJ tips content, and practice those. So that's been quite good.
Yeah.
But the point is, we've got to keep learning, and things are changing so much. I'm just loving the whole learning phase. This is a whole new world to me. And it's like amazing.
I love that pro tip. It's something that we sort of try and hammer home a lot, because making content, making mixes, it's like you don't want to have to start with a blank slate all the time. It's impossible to keep generating ideas. And obviously with Crossfader, we put out 10 videos a week or something. We don't want to be sat there thinking of ideas. So whenever you're constantly having to save things and put them in folders, and then when you go to your decks, like you say, you've got a music folder. I don't have to think about music. I know what I've been listening on Instagram or on TikTok. I've got loads of saved, and then I've got viral ideas, and it doesn't mean to be just like viral DJ ideas. It's like, what is culturally relevant, what's new, what's trending, save it in there. Then all of a sudden you go to your phone and you've got so many ideas, you can bank them up, batch them, schedule them out. Honestly, like pro tips.
There's so much stuff out there. There's nothing new. It's all on your phone.
How do you decide when you're shooting videos over in Sri Lanka? Like, how do you decide where to go? You say you've got a bit of a analytical approach to it, or is it just like whatever takes you?
So I usually take my deck with me. So whenever I'm traveling. So again,
what have you got, a 400?
I have a 400. I have a 400. I love it. So I take that with me, and then also again on my Notion, on my thing, I have a list of like must-do places, and I also check on Instagram like what's trend, which places are trending, in whichever city I'm in. So I shot one at London Bridge last week. I shot one at the Dracula Castle in Romania when I was playing.
Oh, nice!
That was cool too.
Nice.
So you got to find. Sometimes it's very like touristic stuff. Sometimes it's like super quirky, like cultural stuff. So you have to find stuff. And I just like save them, and sometimes it's just totally random. If I feel like I'm driving and I see a nice field, I'm like, I'm gonna shoot a video here, and then shoot that. So
you mentioned you sort of recently got a manager through this content. What's that sort of relationship like? Because I think that I speak to a lot of DJs who get agents or get managers, and the perception of what a manager or a DJ an agent will do for you is, okay, now I've got an agent, now I've got a manager, they'll go and do all my work, which obviously isn't true. I'd love to know your sort of relationship with this sort of, with all being sort of new to you as well.
So my Martina's my manager, so shout out to her. So we met at a gig about 7 months ago in Sri Lanka, and we were just friends for a long time.
Cool.
So we were just like friends, and I was doing my gigs, and then she wants to come back to Sri Lanka and spend more time there. And she's an online German teacher, so a complete different thing to what she does. So then we said, okay, let's trial this out for like 3 months. Here's what we're trying to do: make Rob famous.
I love
get
that.
him gigs.
Top of the Notion template is
make Rob famous. So then how do we do stuff? And like she's like young, super like high energy, crazy ideas, and all of this kind of stuff, and pushes me to go out of my way to do so. Sometimes I'm like shy, to like it's sometimes quite nerve-wracking, in the middle of nowhere,
especially where you're filming. You're like, oh my god,
this is like, and you have all your equipment, and you're there, and people think you're crazy.
What's going on?
So but this works. So we met at a gig, and we started this relationship, and we made it very clear, like, okay, 3 months, we're gonna try it out, see how it goes. There's 2 goals: 1, build social media following; 2, get gigs. So the first aspect is creating content, posting, sharing, and the second aspect is building list of venues, suitable venues, reaching out to them, getting contracts, getting gigs. So that's the two parts of like her job that I need from her.
Yeah.
And my part of the bargain is I will spend time creating music, finding good music, working on my production, and one day get a track that gets really big and focus on that. So I focus on the music, she focuses on this, and it's very clear. But me having been in sales for a long time and built businesses, I struggle to let go of control. I need to know what's happening
all the
like
time,
where we're going and all of this. And it's taken us a while. The relationship is taken some time to build, understand how each other works, building that trust, because I don't want to give all my responsibilities to her and wait, and like if I don't get any gigs, I'm like stressed out. And I would also don't want to feel like I'm micromanaging her. It's not like this. So it's also on the sales front, we have a plan like where we are, like which cities we are in each month and how many gigs we need, and also that those gigs, how much that turns into money-wise. We have enough to survive. So it's also important to think about those things.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have a plan. So then like now when we planned out like the India tour, it was very straightforward. We got booked onto one city. Then we reached out to all the other venues and promoters in that those cities and got gigs, signed up, and that was very successful.
Nice.
But then we had massive amount of learnings from that, because getting gigs is fine, you're getting paid, but bro, like we have to fly everywhere. You have to pay for stuff. Like gigs are on the weekends, but then during the week you need somewhere to stay. There's a lot of this. It was massive learning. So when we came to Europe, it was the same kind of process. Now we've been planning gigs here, so playing in London in September, and then like 4 gigs in Czech Republic, and then in Slovakia, and then one in Berlin. And Berlin was the toughest one to get.
Yeah,
so
I bet.
It was the toughest one to get, but we managed.
They are particular.
Very particular. I love it. I love it. I love it. So
but they've got such a reputation to uphold, you know.
And they don't care who you are. They truly don't care or how many followers you have or how many videos. So it's been like this. And with the Europe one, it's been very specific. Like our goal is to play in Europe, enjoy our time here, collect all the testimonials and reactions from here that then I use back in Asia. Because in Asia, they still look up to the West as this pinnacle of music, dance, and this approval that we need to get from the West. For me, it makes it easier. I come here, play, go back and focus on my market. I don't need to be playing in every part of the world. I need to.
But I guess it gives you the credibility. If that's how they perceive it, it gives you the credibility being here, getting the gigs. You go back and you say, "Look what
I played here." So that's how it works with the manager. It's like building a relationship. It's not where you dump all your kind of outbound, your sales thing. They're not going to go and find stuff for you. You also need to be equally motivated. You also need to do your part in terms of like practicing, learning, like all your development stuff. But also you can also get involved in the outbound reaches too, because there is messaging people. Like when I message 100 venues, I'm likely to respond of two responses. And out of those 2 responses, one will be like, no, we're fully booked out for the season. So there's that, then there's the emails, then there's the calls. But there are other ways you can do this. You can also connect with local DJs and see how you can get in that way. Or you can be commenting on like posts from these venues or joining. There's so many quirky ways you can get your way around to these venues. And you could be doing that as a DJ opposed to offloading that to your manager, because they're not going to do that the whole time. So,
no, we have sort of a mantra here, is like being everywhere all at once. And that is sort of a great way to look at it. It is hard and it's not going to be easy, but what you're not going to get is, messaging someone saying, can I have a gig? And they're going to go, yes. But what you might get is you message them once, you comment at another time, you keep posting, and all of a sudden it's like you're always there in their mind. And then when a DJ drops out somewhere, it's like, oh, yeah, I know somebody. He's been on my case for like a month. So that, but I really sort of, you make it sound
very simple because it is, and it's obviously from your sort of business background. It is, you mentioned like outbound and sort of sales, and but it is that, and it's like, people most asked questions, how do I get more gigs? And because you've done it the other way around, you've been businessman and now you're trying to do the DJ thing. It's like it's a very just a process for you. It's just like that you have to send 100, 1,000 texts to get any message back. That's how business is, right? It's just like any. There's a surplus of sort of DJs and not enough events out there to sort of fill everyone, and also you've got to sort of prove it over time that you can do it. But it's just a process, right? It's just like you write it down and you do it step by step. And I think that's an amazing way for sort of a young generation or someone just starting out to be like, oh yeah, well, here's what I do. I make content, I connect with the right people, and show up over a period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Make sure you follow Rob on all the socials. I'll leave a link down below. And of course, if you want to take a course with Crossfader, just go to wearecrossfader.co.uk, and we'll see you again in the next episode of the Off the Record podcast.